Okay. So, Bruce Carlson here, history explorer. No, JFK did not steal the 1960 election from Richard Nixon. And no, his father, even with all his money, even with all his influence in the city of Chicago, which we'll talk about, did not steal it either. And the reason is a simple mathematical, political reason of looking at vote totals. But the first reason is in order to make a charge, you have to have proof. No one's been able to ever raise proof. There's only been allegations that, oh, Mayor Daley, who did indeed control his machine, controlled the city of Chicago, no doubt about that. Mayor Daley stole the election for Kennedy, and Kennedy's father paid Mayor Daley to do that. The Daleys were indeed good friends with the Kennedys, there's no doubt about that. Kennedy and the Kennedy family owns the merchandise mart, or did until the 80s, in Chicago, one of the largest and biggest income producing um, buildings in that city. So they're very influential, well known, no doubt about that. The other thing that is true to say is that Kennedy got a lot of votes in Cook County, Illinois, where Chicago is. Of course, Democrats then and now almost always do. Um, but there's a reason why, if you can't just believe the simple explanation that in order to make an allegation, you have to prove it, and it's never been proven. It's just been rumors throughout time, lightly investigated in 1960 and built into a tidal wave now of rumor and speculation. If you just can't accept that simple fact, here's a pretty easy mathematical reason why you cannot say that JFK stole the election in 1960. It was a legitimate election, particularly going to look at the state that's most contended, which is Illinois. Now, what I'm going to look at is simply the increase that John F. Kennedy got over Adlai Stevenson running in 1956. Okay, Adlai Stevenson and Estes Kefauver um, ran as the Democrats in 1956. JFK was a much better candidate. He was a better candidate in Chicago. He was a better candidate in Illinois. He was a better candidate throughout the nation. He was a charismatic candidate. He reached out to groups that hadn't voted for Democrats in a while, such as African Americans and women and things like that. Um, you can expect that there would be an increase for him over that ticket, and there was. So that's essentially what happened in the election. You had a charismatic, good candidate who performed better than the 1956 Democratic candidate, and his opponent, Nixon, performed worse than he and Eisenhower had, okay, when they were running in 1956. Let's look at Cook County. So JFK and Kennedy Johnson gets a 40% increase in the vote in 1960 over the 1956 Democratic ticket, a 40% increase. And that's if that's all that happened, I would look at that little blue county above me here a little suspiciously and say, "Oh, Mayor Daley was doing some shenanigans, 40% increase." Except that JFK also did better in the entire state of Illinois, 33% better than the Stevenson Kefauver ticket had. So really, it's not that much more in Cook. And we have a candidate who's appealing to African American voters. We know this. His phone call to Coretta Scott King and other things like that than the 1956 Democratic ticket would have done. If it's the case that Mayor Daley won the election for JFK, riddle me this, though. What about these three counties I have in green? And they're just representative. It was happening all over the state. JFK was doing better than Democrats did in 1956 throughout the state. You take LaSalle County, outside of Chicago, 50% increase. JFK over the Democratic ticket in 1956. Joe Davies County, I like that name, 47% increase. JFK over the 1956 Democratic ticket. Jersey County. I particularly like being from New Jersey that there's a Jersey County in Illinois. 20% increase, way far away from Chicago. How could Mayor Daley have influence on that? 20% more people like this JFK candidate than the 1956 Democrats. In Illinois, it's 33%. in the entire nation. JFK gets 31% more votes than the 1956 Democrats got. No, folks, there wasn't any theft of the 1960 election. All that happened is you had a better, more charismatic, news getting, television performing candidate, and he brought what might have been a blowout to a really close election in 1960, including in Illinois. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my podcast. It is an audio podcast, but from time to time, I do these little videos and things.